Hello, everybody, and welcome to DC Time. I'm Dean.
I'm Chris.
Thanks so much for joining us. Chris and I is glad, as always, to get together, and we love whoever's out there that's joined us along our journey. Anybody new out there, from time to time, we're going to just say this. You just got two guys here just sharing our personal journeys.
Yeah.
And you know, we're trying to give you things to consider, and ultimately we do that for each other. Chris and I get together and give each other things to consider along our journey. And we're learning through our Apostle Paul here in Scripture, and we love doing that. Today's topic that may continue on for several weeks, may wrap it up today, we'll see. Not sure exactly what our Father has in store for us, but it's a big topic. It's a lot. There's a lot for Chris and I to learn about this topic. It's fascinating, really, all the different perspectives. But we're going to talk about suffering a little bit. So how many weeks could we spend on that? Could we exhaust that? How much do we have to learn about it? It's unbelievable how many different perspectives.
Enormous.
We've just briefly talked about it a little bit, and it's amazing our different perspectives and how we help each other see things. It's like, wow, just little twist here that I thought I saw it this way, and now I see it a little different way.
Right.
Those are interesting things. Listen to this from our Apostle Paul, though, okay? Several times, Paul suffered brutal beatings by rods, okay? 5 times, according to, and check me out about this, the exact facts about this. I don't claim to have this perfectly deal, but the best I found is 5 times he was unjustly flogged by his own people that he grew up with and he had a love for, okay? 5 different times, 40 stripes. He was shipwrecked 4 times. Once stoned. All right, Paul, the Apostle Paul was stoned. If you were stoned, they did that to kill you. Yeah. It's definitely the only time that I believe that's recorded in the Scripture of a stoning and somebody survived. You don't survive a stoning. And so he was taken outside the city. They clearly thought they killed him. Mm-hmm. Don't know if his heart quit beating for a couple beats and then it came back, or they just thought he was dead and he just really wasn't dead. But he was left for dead. They thought they killed him. But he survived. Yeah. Okay, so
it's like being put in the electric charge and just getting 120 volts per 5 minute, whatever. Its purpose is to kill you. You're not supposed to come back from it.
Right. So my thoughts started this week. I had all these flooded thoughts, okay? And then I'll turn this over to Chris for some of his stuff. I had all these thoughts of like, wow, Dean. And to say out there, who among us today has gone through anything like that? Where's the evidence for anything like that? But my mind, was a little shifted on, I don't want to minimize the sufferings that humanity does go through. And even can equate, these sufferings too. But clearly the Apostle Paul, clearly it's a different time. Clearly there's factual evidence, the things he's gone through, I have not gone through. I'm not going to go through that. Mm-hmm. I'm just pretty confident that I'm not going to be getting flogged anytime soon. Have you been flogged?
Nope. Well, some of the spankings I received when I was a child, I could maybe make a case they were very close to a flogging.
Well, there you go, see? I've not, I wasn't really flogged. I was a little more, protected, coddled.
Insulated.
Definitely insulated. I don't remember being thrown in prison for any because of lies or unjust reasons. Or no. I'm certainly not going to be stoned.
Here in Evansville, we've never been shipwrecked.
No, been shipwrecked.
Never been shipwrecked.
So there, hopefully you get my thing of, I don't want to be like, just quit, get over some of your sufferings or things like that. I don't want to turn into that, because we do suffer here as humans. The world, this wicked eon we live, it's full of it. Mm-hmm. It's full of sufferings and hurt, death, right? Conflict, and we're hurt by others, and we too, what hurts us the most, Chris and I have hurt people just by our words. That hurts. right? We don't want to do that. So we suffer. We do suffer. And I want to say to myself, okay, you're not going, Dean, you're doing okay. So the point we want to make out of this, though, and to look at is, wow, when you see what Paul went through and you see what poured out of him. Oh, I didn't mention this buffer splinter thing. The liar himself was sent, special enemy sent in.
Adversary, yeah.
To be given to Paul. Okay. And so is that happening to me, at that level? Anyway, what come out of Paul, this love and joy and peace through that, gives me hope and an expectation that all of our sufferings as humanity also we're going to be brought through. It's uniquely tailored for us and for our situation. And I want to be careful to say any more with that, because I know your suffering's out there, and anybody that is, our heart, our spirit just wants to cry and love with you. If there's anything we could do to help you, we would try to do that.
Yeah.
And appreciate the help we get back from you. So,
huge topic.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to begin. I mean, we laugh about our personalities, how they come in and play a part in our interpretation of some of these things, some of the thoughts that have gone through my mind. I had Dean laughing about how I sometimes look at these things. I do want to say that this morning we had the privilege of fellowship with Clyde Pilkington this morning on Skype. I think that was a Skype.
Yep.
And
it's amazing we figure out how to turn the thing on.
Isn't that the truth? But we had the opportunity to visit with Clyde this morning, and obviously we did talk with him some about these things. One of the things that I appreciated that Clyde brought was the idea that we suffer all the time. Just existing in the world brings suffering. I mean, just a myriad of suffering. The physical, that the body is constantly breaking down. Romans 8:20, that we are subjected to vanity, and this is not willfully.
All right.
That our bodies are letting us down, always. And that is a form of suffering. Just what Dean mentioned, I can't tell you how many times I've read a comment and a perceived tenor of that comment makes me think the person is thinking of something in a specific way. And then after I allow myself time to think about trying to answer that question, realizing that I could be misreading or reading something into that comment that person didn't mean. You have to be careful sometimes with written responses and so forth, because we can give a false impression, something we don't mean, and the person gets something and you go, oh my goodness, that's not at all how I intended that. So I have to do the same thing when someone writes me. I need to remember that the person could be asking me a very sincere question because they're dealing with something, and I need to be sensitive to that. So I can hurt a person really easily, and just what Dean said, that I don't want to do that. There's no desire in me to do that. So Clyde was just great on helping us to look at some of the things that are natural that we're going through daily that provide suffering. Now, another thing this week, I ended up going back to our friend Nelson Howell, who is in repose now. Nelson Howell Invited Truths or something was the name of his site. But I went to a video he had on suffering. It was interesting. Now, many of you know who Nelson is. Nelson passed from cancer, and he had been fighting cancer for a long time. And he goes into a little bit of that suffering with the physical infirmities that was visited upon him. And he talks about that. One of the greatest things he said that I took away from that was the idea that suffering causes us to have no confidence in the flesh. That suffering was a way of cutting off the flesh. in our conversation with Clyde, Clyde was saying he was glad to hear that Dean and Amy had gotten through the COVID and they were doing better and stuff. And Dean brought up how being sick, vulnerable, wiped out, can't do anything else. It kind of allowed him to do some good thinking, reflective thinking, maybe watch some videos. You have more time to do that. And so there was some fellowship in spirit that was going on for you. And I remember the very same thing when I was going through COVID.
Yeah, and you said that too.
So the flesh was really knocked low, and I had to depend on something else for substance, and we laughed about how we could actually be find some good about suffering through something like a physical infirmity that allows us to say, okay, I'm not going to count on the flesh. I'm going to be more in tune with spirit, in these moments.
Yeah, more in tune with the words that came from Paul out of his sufferings and the things that is telling us, especially like in Ephesians, Colossians, these words, that how to think above, think of higher things, and then how in a spiritual way, how we're blessed with all spiritual blessings and all these wonderful things that we can't even really we haven't experienced it all yet, but we know by faith we can believe these things, and he's in this whole other realm, what he's talking about. And that, when you get knocked down, like I said, we don't want to be sick. We don't want to go through these things. We don't want to suffer. Sometimes it can bring an opportunity, a great opportunity. And another thing said, I don't know exactly how, but within our conversation this morning was, we want to look when you have an opportunity or when you can click into that spirit to where you can start trying not to waste, so to speak, these sufferings.
Yes, great.
Right? And so that's a beautiful little bit of a shift in the mind of, wow, can I experience the joy and peace even through suffering? There again, we want to be very, very cautious that most times, the best thing we could do if we can help somebody is just cry with them, because we're crying and groaning within ourselves. And so it's not so much to get somebody,
right, we
believing, thinking this certain thing, but we just want to encourage ourselves and encourage you that there's hope even in the midst here of our evil and suffering that we experience, whether just in our minds emotionally or actual trauma that's come upon us. It's all going to pay off.
Right. I think
we believe.
2 Corinthians 4:17.
You want to read some verses there?
Well, the 2 Corinthians 4:17, we love this scripture. We think when we experience it, it's going to be a tremendous thing. And it's that these momentary light afflictions are creating for us a Aeonian burden of glory. Now, when I first heard that, and I heard people describing that and considering that on that side, we can look at our afflictions here on earth and say they appeared from that vantage point that it was a momentary light affliction. However, let's be sensitive to everyone who's going through things. You're not going to run up to somebody who just got a cancer diagnosis and tell them, hey, this is you'll see this as a momentary light affliction whenever you get your, obviously, let's be honest.
Right.
The greatest thing we can do at that moment is go up and hug the person and cry with the person and love the person. We can know this and know the truth about it and what's going to be going on.
And we believe, I'm going to interrupt, keep it your thought, but what's not funny, it's just that Paul's making a huge point here.
Yeah.
It steps into another realm, because look at the concordance. For the momentary lightness of our affliction is producing for us transcendent Aeonian. they've had to translate into. He doesn't have. Now we're running out of words here because it's so. It transcends some other kind of transcending thing, or so. It gives us hope.
Yes. Yeah.
We believe these things. We can't produce it. We can't do what we want here. Can't unconditionally love and share that or whatever, but we can sometimes tap in and see. We can see you. We see your spirit. You see ours.
Mm-hmm.
We love that. And we try to encourage and help each other with that when we see that and highlight that. That's our hope. Not to, like you're saying, to be cautious, not to beat up on somebody because your suffering is not really as bad as Paul's, so get over it.
Yeah.
Like my mom, or something like that.
And one of the things that we discussed this morning, and I have shared this with Dean, I think it's very natural for us to look at the sufferings of Paul, and we wouldn't sign up for any of that. I wouldn't ask for any of that.
No. No.
And then at the same time, I see myself here. You said how insulated I am.
Yeah, it's how we think of it, but right.
I feel like I see people around me who suffer. I've got a sweet little cousin who lost her mother, her father, both sisters, and then her son. Mm-hmm. All of them are now in repose. She lost all of them in a little over a very short 18-month period of time, or 2-year period of time.
Yes.
That's a suffering I can't even comprehend. I've not had that visited on me.
And what's beautiful is, and this is to steal from our conversation this morning, I think Clyde pointed it out, that Father knows uniquely how He's built each of us and what is needed and tailored for our lives. Mm-hmm. It's a radical belief to trust in the Father that He knows what He's doing.
Yeah.
But we can take comfort in that. We hope you can take comfort in the sovereignty of the Creator and the Father. Right. Ultimately, He knows.
We believe that He
even though it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Some of this worldly relative view of suffering and evil, how can this be from a loving God?
Right.
We get that.
We believe this work is preparatory.
Yeah.
And suffering is a way of creating endurance, perseverance, those things in us that are going to be needed for a future work. Now, we believe that, and that is part of the reason for our suffering. It is preparing us for a future work. And just as Dean said, just as Clyde said, our suffering does not look like another person's suffering because we ourselves are unique. We've talked about this, I don't know how many times, we've talked about how none of us has all truth. We're all individuals. Isn't it funny how my walk looks different than Dean's walk?
Right.
It's not so funny. It's actually very purposeful. It's very unique to every individual. So my suffering is different than Dean's suffering. And I shouldn't count it greater or less than.
Right.
It's the appropriate amount of suffering for me and what God is preparing for me. It is the bit that larger, that absolute picture of sovereignty that God is doing. So there's a lot here to be said, and I got a feeling we'll continue.
We'll stop it there, and we'll I think we're going to continue this because there's a lot of different ways to talk about this, perspectives, and we might share some more things that have touched us with it. So I'll end with a couple words from Paul.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And you can just think about these things and look up the context, consider these things. What is he really saying? Can we really believe this? Philippians 3:10 says, I want to know Christ.
To know the power of his resurrection and participation in his sufferings.
In his sufferings, right. Can we really believe that? Becoming like him in his death. Okay? That's Philippians 3:10. Yeah, look up some of that here. Romans 5:3 says, not only so, but we also glory in what? What do we glory in? In our sufferings. Because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Just a little, that's just perseverance. It produces so much, we believe. So much that it's beyond our comprehension right now. We're hopeful for what it's going to produce here in the future for us. So
Right.
hopefully that encourages you.
I want to just add Philippians 1:29, then we'll wrap it up. For to you it is graciously granted for Christ's sake, not only to be believing on him, but to be suffering for his sake also.
Yeah.
Now, see, there's something really good about this because it's being granted for you.
Yep.
There's something very purposeful and very intentful behind this, and you're being granted suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So just the wording should tell you there's a powerful
Yeah,
expectation behind it.
Right.
So, hey, love all you guys. So appreciative that you tune in to us weekly, and love our brother Clyde and appreciate his making time for us this morning.
That's right. Thank you so much for that time.
And we'll be back here real soon again.
Yep. Love you all. See you next week.
Bye.